Well, good evening. Dan York, State of Mind, online version here on WPRI.com, while our program at 7:30 on MyRI TV and Fox Providence at midnight continues on repeat until further notice. So, things happening today that are worthy of note and perhaps a little bit of thought. Charlie Baker, the governor of Massachusetts, says no mas. There will be in the buildings will continue. And that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I've said on the radio on WPRO weekdays 3 to 6, and right here that I'm waiting for that to happen from Governor Raimondo any day now. When asked at her briefing this afternoon what she thought about the mask decision and what she's going to do, she borrowed some more time and said that she hadn't made a decision and it's a really hard decision and that she's talking to a lot of stakeholders about the whole thing and she's going to come to a decision at the end of the week. And yeah, she was riffing. And at the end of her riff, she more or less said, but, having said all that, not really sure that I can see 4, 6, 800, 1,200 kids in a school building perhaps transmitting the virus and creating a dangerous situation in the community. Again, most kids don't get it, but most kids can pass it. And that's what the problem is with this whole COVID-19 virus situation, right? Any day now, she's going to cry uncle, and it's not a failure on her part. It's what it is. The social distance learning or the distance learning for the kids and the teachers reportedly in Rhode Island is going reasonably well. We were one of the first states to actually engage in it, so there's no quit in the Rhode Island education system, and we'll see what comes at the end. Now, there's a lot of heartbreak going to happen here, right? School sports are tentative at best and probably aren't going to be played, and things like graduations at colleges throughout the region are in the country are just being shut down. Online schooling continues on a collegiate level, and high school and college graduations are being postponed or canceled. I got a call on the radio today from a local school administrator with an idea to take the cameras that are in place at a lot of the bigger facilities at the high schools in Rhode Island to go ahead and have the kids walk, have a graduation ceremony that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa can actually watch online on video and keep it for posterity. That request is going to the governor. Perhaps she'll take a good look at it and give it a good review. At least give it time to breathe, and perhaps it's something that can be worked out. I certainly hope so. As far as spring sports are concerned, not so much. But again, we should keep an open mind. But you know that Rhode Island is going to trail mass any moment now. Now, on some other moments of interest here and news developments, the Rhode Island COVID-19 Financial Task Force is about to meet. Now, what is that? That's your state government, a brand new name for your state government. I spoke with the Senate President today about this project. He and the Speaker of the House are convening members of both the Senate and the House of Representatives for a meeting next Thursday, April 30th, to review the $1 million or so that the governor has spent or will be spending, $100 million. Did I say a million? $100 million on fighting COVID-19. That is so overdue. Look, this COVID-19's emergency response has been in the hands of the White House and governor's offices across the land. That makes sense. That's the natural flow. That's the way government responds. But we are so over executive branch heavy right now. We're just so dangerously executive branch heavy. I've never been one to say, hey, General Assembly, let's get going, because, well, those were different times. Right now, we need legislative oversight. We need legislative action. There are things that the governor should be deciding upon with review, and there are things that the governor should be deciding upon with cooperation, and there are things that should be decided upon by the legislature, not singularly by the governor, now and going forward. So this is a first step for them to get engaged in the process, and they're better late than never. There are legislators around the country who are getting on their computers as part of the virtual legislative body meeting, and I think Rhode Island's a little tardy in getting that plan together. We will not miss the late rush in June on a hot summer night in a non-air conditioned state house, as with fans going like this, legislators are passing bills one after another in the crush that is our end of session environment. A little less dramatic in the last few years because the speaker has been better at managing, but it's kind of a thing we do here. They're not going to be able to pull that off. But in terms of deciding the big picture and the money, and a couple of legislative decisions that can be helpful on COVID-19 response, they better get in the ballgame. Now, as far as Washington is concerned, big news, another 400 plus billion with a B, $billion stimulus program, which is going to add another $300 billion or so to the PPP program. So if you're a business that felt like, oh, I got stuck, or you didn't hit submit, and your bank didn't file with the SBA, and you ended up in limbo to get part of that program, you could be in business for a second round. Another $75 billion in that plan to the hospitals, who desperately need some cash flow, because ironically, they've shut down a lot of what they're doing in elective and other kinds of departments. Can you imagine in the middle of this mess that they're laying off nurses and other important hospital staff because there's no business there? So they got to even off the liquidity and economy for the hospitals, and that I think is going to be approved quickly by the president, and it's been worked out with the House and the Senate. They're supposed to come back and make some votes, so I would think within a few days or a week that that is acted upon. And just to make your cloudy day and evening brighter, the CDC today announced that, at least its executive director said, for the record, that a second wave of the COVID-19 virus could be worse and perhaps more deadly than the first. This in the middle of knucklehead governors across this state who are opening up with no plan other than to satisfy those who say, please open up. Everybody wants to open up. But who wants to start another fire bigger than the one that we're already still tamping out? I hope nobody. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back to original shows soon. Have a great night. Wash your hands. Try not to touch your face. I know it's hard. I've had an itch the entire time. Can't do it. Not allowed. Get a nice bandana and be nice to everybody.